evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 18th, 2020 Planning Board meeting. John Taylor, he's just said this is our 5th meeting in a row. If we could, please, Robbie, with the flag. If we could start with the pledge. There it is.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and as we have been, if we could just have a brief moment of silence for all the people suffering with this COVID, and in honor for our healthcare workers and first responders and people helping us out every day. Thank you very much. All right, so we do have some correspondence tonight. I think some of it we should talk about, as I discussed with John earlier. Jim's here. Jim, we got 2 memos from you. I think one of them is self-explanatory, but do you want to talk about the Hearthstone subdivision easement issue?
Sure. The way I reviewed the old subdivision approval and the easement itself, this was platted on a previous subdivision, and the actual easement grant was recorded. So it exists. There was an offer of dedication made on the old subdivision plat, and then there was an express easement made in the 1986 deed. So that easement can be dedicated to the town. Upon its dedication, it would become public. My only comment was that since the town does not want to be involved in maintenance of the access drive, that they limit the dedication to the utilities.
Okay. Anybody?
Would that be the acceptance of the dedication at the present time, Jim? In other words, we're accepting it for utilities only, but we leave the offer open in case the town wants to take over that right away for a public road at some point? Or would that be the end of it? We just have the utilities?
That's correct, yeah. You could do either. You take easement for utilities or the dedication of the utilities and reject the dedication of the access, or could leave it open for some point in the future if the town would want to accept it. I can't imagine that they would, but.
Right, but there's a couple of funky things about this area that you may have come across or not, but what's referred to as a goat path is a road, over on the west side of the instant property that's being explored to be subdivided. It's, we may want to reserve that for another day. And there's also a paper road that runs parallel to this. There is a wetland on the eastern side of it, but it's an interesting area over there with access and people winding their way through the back. I'll defer to John Tegeter's opinion on the area. If he thinks this is going to be a dead end and all we need is the utility access, that's fine. But, it's always good to have options. I tell my kids that all the time. If we want to leave the access open.
Okay.
If you recall, the subdivision that you just approved, the subject subdivision, that access easement really ends right at their lot line there. So it probably will remain a dead end. In the future, conceivably it could come a town road, cul-de-sac or with a hammerhead, but we wouldn't take it unless it was improved to town standard. And I don't think that the town will want to spend the money on their own to do that. So subsequent, there's two homes there that could actually subdivide. If they wanted to get that off their maintenance, pocketbook, they would have to actually build that road in order for the town to consider taking it.
Right, and there's a couple of lots on the right side of the road that could still be improved. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are actually, those are two contiguous lots. They would have to be subdivided.
Got it.
Which they have the right to do because they have the amount of property similar to the subject subdivision. So they have about an acre or so.
Right, and in that regard, then we have an additional 4 families on top of the 2 families coming in now, and you know what it's like when you get a number of people on a private right of way.
Right. If you were doing a 6-lotter now, it would be basically a major subdivision, which would essentially, in most cases, we'd be looking at a public road.
Right.
But it's not that right now.
So I'm just throwing it out there. I think I would, I did read through your correspondence, Jim, and thank you for that. If we have the option, I would like to at least reserve that option for future right-of-way access, but take the utility easement now. That's just me.
No, I agree with John. You don't know what's around turn number 2, but if our discussion earlier with people wanting to come up to the area, start to really boom, these lots will go. Any other thoughts from the board?
No, I agree with John.
All right, so can we make that work, Jim?
Yeah,
Thank you.
that would be fine. So we would actually be accepting dedication of the utility portion only at this point, and we would reserve the right to accept dedication at some future point. And I would, just to throw this out there, I would take it you would want it dedicated only if it was approved to town standards.
Well, whatever's acceptable at that point. If it ends up being 2 houses, it might not have to be a 50-foot wide right away with a 40-foot wide road or something, but or 25-foot wide road. But I'm assuming at the point where we're considering accepting it, we would want it to be a substantial piece of infrastructure.
Okay. All right, so I guess, Mr. Chairman, we need a motion on that.
Okay. So how would I word that? Motion to approve the sewer easement and a future possible.
I think we're looking for sewer and water at this point, right, Rich?
Sewer and water, and then the road so we could say utility easement as per the current plan, and in the future, the road easement.
Yeah, actually, in the adjoining neighborhoods, they have natural gas, and right up on Gomer Street, they have natural gas. So a general utility easement would actually be best. You could, bury the electric, put the gas in, sewer, water, whatever, if that's, reasonable.
All right. Do I have a motion then to approve the utility easement as noted with the future right-of-way easement as deemed necessary by the town?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
I'm sorry, I jumped on a couple minutes late. Which property were you talking about there for my notes?
This is in our correspondence. Jim did a memo about the Hearthstone subdivision easement issue. It appears to be, I can't see, it's page 12 in the Dropbox.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Can anybody hear me? I'm having trouble with my view.
We hear you. We hear you.
Okay, so I don't know what to do because I got no video. I'm on a phone.
We hear you.
There may be a thing when your square appears, Bill. There may be something that says, "Click here to start video." That's
Mine is my phone.
set you up.
I don't see it.
Actually,
We hear
it's
you.
on the phone though.
Well, we'll do the best we can.
There you go.
What are we gonna do?
All right, anything else in the correspondence that the members of the board would like to talk about? We saw our neg deck. There was another decision in there. A few DEP letters. Anything?
No, are we going to go through that? Are we going to go through the voting on that neg deck and everything that, we...
How did we leave that, Jim?
We voted on it last time.
Just didn't
We
see it.
re-voted. We repealed the prior votes, and then we did a lead agency, a neg deck, and an approval.
Oh, there we go. All right.
There it is.
So now we just have we have a written record of it that we can put in the file. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up. All right. Before we go into the meeting minutes, I just want to take a moment. I'm sure the rest of the board, if you want to chime in, really thank the planning department, John, Robin, Thomas, Nancy. These guys have been working around the clock to get these meetings set up each week to kind of push Yorktown ahead of the curve here. And, we're doing site visits on the weekend. They've been really working very, very hard. And I think the town of Yorktown is very lucky to have such dedicated professionals.
Amen.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Happy to do it.
You guys are really on it. We appreciate it.
Makes my job a heck of a lot easier, so thank you
I'm
guys.
sure it does.
All right, then we're going to move into the meeting minutes of the May 11th, 2020 meeting. I know we got a revised copy earlier. Thank you, Nancy. Anybody got
That's
any
it.
comments, concerns?
No.
Good. Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, that being said, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the May 11th, 2020 planning board meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to move in the regular session portion of the meeting?
Want to close the regular session?
We got to open it.
Okay. Then I'll make that motion.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first on the agenda, we have the Faith Bible Church. They're looking for a reapproval of a site plan and special use permit. And I saw Joe Rena's here. So Joe, you're on.
Good evening, everybody. Joseph Rena, the Principal Site Design Consultants. Faith Bible Church, as you know, has been around for a while. They have site plan approval to expand their existing church building, make improvements, which include adding parking and enhancing the stormwater facilities on site, as well as connecting to the sewer. A few years back, the project hit a wall because of the lack of funds. The funds kind of dried up because of the lengthy process involved in getting this approved, and they went through pretty much everything that they had. However, they did accomplish some of the improvements, and one of the improvements was demolishing one of the freestanding buildings that was to the right rear of the main church building. And they added some parking on both sides new parking on both sides of the building. Otherwise, the site remains as was. The church building itself remains the same size that it was. So, at this point, they are, again, trying to build up a fund to make these, to continue with and proceed finishing off these renovations. And they're asking the planning board to consider that and grant them a new reapproval.
Okay, so does any members of the board have any questions about this application?
Do we have, are we aware of any changes environmentally or utility availability or anything like that that has changed, Joe?
No, nothing has changed from that perspective. I mean, we still have the ability to connect to the sewer as needed.
Mm-hmm.
And all plans are still in place to make the enhancements to the buffer and wetland, which were approved as part of the original project. So we haven't abandoned any of that, any of that work to be done.
Great.
Anyone else from the board? John Tegeter?
No, we're set. Joe did give a short letter stating that very thing about the environmental conditions, so we're all set.
Okay. Counselor?
No objection.
All right, we'll open up to the public. Anybody from the public have any concerns about the application? If you could let Robin know via, I think it's a hand wave or an instant message, please. We'll give you a minute.
I'm sure they don't want to build a nice big church now because nobody can go to church.
Very true.
Headed into strange days.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Robin?
Yes.
I think you need to enable chat.
People can chat with me.
Anything?
Oh, now I can get it. Yep. There you go.
I see Joe's trying to get on it.
Yeah. Okay, now I can get it. Yep.
All right, so
Okay, well, since I just turned that on, just give everybody, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, I see. All right, it was off.
No way.
I haven't gotten anything.
Okay.
Okay. So now that there's no comment from the public, do I have a motion for the reapproval of the site plan and special use permit for the Faith Bible Church?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to close the regular session portion of the meeting and move into our work session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're in our work session now. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.